So today we're going to be talking about distributed working, how you have found working from home, and discussing whether the new normal has highlighted the importance of Regtech adoption for the insurance industry, and if you believe the market's perception of the software has changed. And obviously, as restrictions begin to ease, I want to know how you think the market will return. So, as restrictions begin to ease and the hope for a somewhat return to a sense of normality approaches, I'm sure you're both planning visits to your favourite bars and restaurants. So when you can get back to the Reg office, which will be the bars, shops and restaurants you want to head to first?
Well, I could probably answer quite comfortably first, as I've already kind of capitalised on said openings. I actually think I took the first 3 days off from the 12th of April and had a few drinks down in South London. But we've been into the city on, I think it was the first Thursday back, and managed to get together with the rest of the team. But in terms of getting back, I think the only frustrating thing at the moment is the fact that you've got to book. Gone are the days of spontaneity. But yeah, no, it's been great to get back out, and fortunately we've had a bout of warm weather. But specifically, we get back down to the market, Leadenhall Market. We've been to the oyster shed along the river. But yeah, so hopefully when things open up indoors, we can actually start to be a bit more spontaneous.
Yeah,
and have some restaurants and some things to eat. I mean, the thing is, where our office is, I don't actually really know any bars, restaurants. I know there's the Royal Exchange, so I'll have a look around there. I've already mentioned it to my wife, and she's already started dropping hints where I can start buying presents. So that probably wasn't the best thing to say. But other than that, yeah, like Victoria said, it'd be really nice once everything opens up properly. You can just be a bit more sort of spontaneous and just go out without having to actually book somewhere. That's the real sort of pain at the moment.
Yeah, there's quite a backlog, isn't there? I think some people are trying to book somewhere and they're booked up for months in advance. So it'd be good to just have the freedom to go wherever.
For sure. It feels like the population's increased, but
I have actually booked for a spa day and afternoon tea, so that'll be quite nice for my wife and I.
It will be nice. So working from home has obviously been challenging, yet hopefully, I guess, an enlightening experience. So how have you found working from home, and which three things stand out to you the most of Reg and lockdown?
Yeah, I mean, well, Brad, I mean, you've obviously been working home for a little while prior to this happening, so you're probably a bit more accustomed to it.
Yeah, so I mean, I've been working at home for probably the last sort of 10, 11 years, so it wasn't massively different. And I think for me, I've got my own office, so I appreciate, it's not the same as people that are potentially working from their kitchen or their lounge. So it's been very different. But I mean, the things that have stood out for lockdown for me with Reg was the fact that we were able to adapt and change very quickly. I mean, literally within a matter of days, we was all at home. There wasn't really any disruption as such. I know other companies maybe took a few weeks, but it was quite the way that we handled it was very, very well. And then in terms of sort of the fun stuff, well, we had our campfires. I particularly like the sort of the music or the movie bingo. That was that's sort of my ones that I quite liked.
Yeah, to keep everyone together and spirits up.
Yeah,
I think and kind of to add to that as well, I think certainly for me, I haven't worked from home really. And I think it was kind of initially difficult because I think I kind of rely on that social aspect of going into the office, and I think there's always been a view that work from home is almost like cheating, and you're not really going to be as productive. But I've certainly found that actually productivity levels in some respect goes up because you're able to focus much more. And for me, certainly from a work-based perspective, availability for some of those kind of stakeholders and people you need to speak to in businesses is that much better. But yeah, and as Brad said, I think socially, within the business, having Zoom meetings and catch-ups, although I probably never want to do it a quiz again via Zoom, or go for a walk ever again. Actually, they're the two things. But no, I think work from home in general has been great. I think we've been very fortunate, as Brad said, to have the IT infrastructure in place to kind of have a pretty seamless transition, and I think that's critical in ensuring that it is smooth. So yeah, it's been really good, and I think actually, as I'm sure many companies will continue to enforce, that this kind of working from home or working remotely or in a distributed way will continue in some shape, way or form. I think companies have realised that actually it does work, and there's kind of sometimes not an awful lot of point just going to the office to sit at a desk and then travel time and commute. But no, it's been really good. I'd say the only thing that I would rather have is a garden. I've kind of discovered a roof, or my roof. I've climbed up and clambered up through my skylight, which is questionable health and safety. But
could you put some nice sort of plant pots out there, Victoria, make it a bit more gardening?
I did have a barbecue though, but I'm not sure if that would probably be frowned by the neighbours. But had a few wounds going up there, but it's given me some respite. And I think I don't even remember now, but last April it was so hot, it was ridiculous. So yeah.
It makes me wonder if this will be the sort of the new norm, because where I have pretty much not really seen many people over the last year, when you start meeting people in person, it actually felt a bit strange.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like it'd gone the other way. So I think it's just really what you get used to.
Yeah.
I guess that flexibility. I guess some people will want to stay working from home, some people will want to go into the office, and some people sort of want the balance.
It gives you that work-life balance for sure, which I think is quite great, especially because so many people certainly that work in London will have quite big commuting times. I'm very fortunate that I live relatively close. I can get to the office within sort of 30-35 minutes. But yeah, I think saving that commuting time is huge, especially for those that have got young families.
Yeah, and I mean, if it doesn't affect productivity, then what's wrong with not going in all the time? Thank you. So obviously distributed working has seemingly highlighted the importance for the insurance market to adopt a Regtech solution. So one benefit being the software works irrespective of whether you're in the office or not. So with colleagues working virtually from all over the place and communication and collaboration perhaps harder to maintain in some cases, do you think distributed working has made people more aware of the need for regulatory management tools?
I think massive. I think there was already a bit more of a willingness to address, automation and kind of digitizing processes. But I definitely think there's more readiness to address changes in what I suppose we call the next normal. And a lot of this is around operational processes such as regulatory management. I think lots of businesses, especially the insurance space, have been quite slow to innovate. Whereas I think what's happened is this disruption has allowed companies to almost reinvent themselves and start to prioritize that digitization aspect. But yeah, I think it's almost certainly highlighted some of those gaps in what are arguably quite archaic processes. And I think, companies, and Brad, I'm sure you'll agree that they've kind of realised the need for those paperless processes, because those traditional manual paper-based processes are time consuming. They involve a lot of steps, and actually by stripping away those aspects, it ensures that companies are equipped to kind of work remotely, which, as we've already touched on, will likely continue for the foreseeable in some capacity.
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing is, regulation doesn't go away, and the thing is, if people are working, at home, hot desking in the office, and they need to be, here, there, and everywhere. It's about having everything in one place. It's about being able to access all your data, anywhere, at any place, at any time. So, the need for tools to automate and streamline your process and allow you to access all your data in one place at any given time is definitely a must, and more companies need to be looking at other solutions that are going to help their business.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, and I think with that as well, there's always going to be parts of the business, especially within insurance, things like underwriters, etc., where it's going to be critical to have those face-to-face interactions. But where you can't, having something that gives you much more efficient controls is critical, arguably more critical than it was prior to this being the case.
Yeah, it's about having that tool that does everything for you without you having to worry about it, so you can focus on other stuff.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Perfect. Well, thank you. So obviously the London market has worked in a distributed manner for almost a year now. Well, over a year really. So when it can, how do you think the market will return?
Well, I mean, from a lot of the companies I've been speaking to, there seems to be a general consensus that they want to phase things in slowly. So as the restrictions are getting reduced, they will slowly start to go back into the office slowly. I think potentially you're not, and even when all the restrictions are supposed to be stopped in June, I still don't think we'll see everyone back in the city. I think this could potentially go into the autumn, and that's obviously if there isn't a third wave, which we don't want to see. But I don't think people are going to be back in the office properly until maybe the end of the year, maybe even potentially early next year.
Listen, I think even when all of these restrictions are lifted, we know that the cost of office space in London is extortionate. Many firms have either capitalised on, the fact that the cost of having office space is becoming cheaper because it's less desirable. But a lot of companies are reducing office capacity or even removing it entirely because they're recognising that actually, whilst before they were quite dubious about this working from home culture and those questions around productivity, I think it's been quite clear that people can work remotely in quite an efficient manner. And if the transition has been seamless, providing they've got that IT infrastructure in place, then actually they can almost reallocate some of those budgets to ensure they've got that IT infrastructure in place. So I personally feel that although there'll always be a need for some of those face-to-face interactions, even when restrictions are lifted entirely, I personally think, especially in the city, in London, that things won't ever go back to normal because, it makes much more sense to actually just reallocate and look at operating in smarter ways like, implementing software solutions.
Yeah, and I think speaking to a lot of companies, they've also said that even moving forward, they're going to have this kind of work and sort of office and home based kind of lifestyle, maybe in the office sort of 2 to 3 days a week, possibly. So I think this has kind of made people realise that you can work effectively at home
and have a better life. I
Yeah.
suppose, and Brad, you can probably resonate having young children, but I think, lots of people who have families who perhaps haven't been able to dedicate the time to spend with them have realised that actually it's possible to have both. So I think they're realising they can actually take advantage of this. So I hope that although we've had a pretty rubbish last 12, 18 months, hopefully it's going to, create some good. There's going to be some good that will come from this.
Yeah, yes, I guess the pandemic, I think the industry's been quite fortunate to have not been affected as adverse as other industries, which I think is obviously a positive out of an unfortunate year. But so do you think there will be a lot of growth for the industry? Do you think, mergers and acquisitions, like in terms of stuff like that, what do you foresee to happen?
Yeah. I mean, mergers and acquisitions have already been pretty rife and will likely continue. We will see perhaps some of those smaller insurance companies, perhaps unfortunately not have been able to survive. But I think what it does mean is those that have will just thrive for the foreseeable. And yeah, I think, like you say, there's lots of acquisitions already going on, and mergers are inevitable moving forward. But yeah, I think we almost certainly will see growth because those that have survived will thrive for the foreseeable.
Yeah, I mean, as Victoria's just said, I mean, we're seeing in the news all the time, there's still mergers and acquisitions going on. And I think as we get, or definitely past sort of later on this year and then the early part of next year, I definitely think we'll probably see an even further growth of this, where companies are looking to expand, obviously to make up for, the losses that they've had over the last year.
I think if you look at, the travel industry, the leisure industry, whilst they've obviously had a huge impact, those that have survived, we know from, if you look at going in the hospitality industry, it's thriving. You can't even get a table. I know I tried to get a table at the weekend and I went to 6 or 7 different places. And I think that will continue. People are really making the most of this freedom. So I think those industries that are in travel, leisure, the hospitality industry, in the insurance space will hopefully capitalise on it and really grow.
Amazing. Well, yeah, as long as everyone continues to work faster, smarter and safer, then I don't see why they can't all grow. But have you got anything else you'd like to add regarding the topic at all, both of you?
I think that's
I think that's covered it.
Perfect. Well, thank you both for your time.
All right, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.